Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for your time. I am so excited to speak with you, and hopefully, we can help so many people, so many mothers and families with kids that need some special attention. And you are an amazing lady. You done so much for kids with autistic disorder. And would you please tell us how did you come up with an idea to create No Small Victories organization?
I think it was just out of necessity and being a mom and just
Yeah.
really wanting to be able to help my son have relationships. Our children on the autism spectrum have a hard time with reading social cues, so they have a difficult time making relationships with their peers. And as a mom, that kind of breaks your
Mhm.
heart when your child feels so isolated and other children just don't know how to reach him. So I started kind of just reaching out to the children in my neighborhood
Yeah.
and kind of explaining some of the things that they were seeing in my son at the time. And, children are so flexible and so adaptable and so accepting when they
Hmm.
really understand what they're seeing. So that kind of paved the way for me wanting to really help advocate for other children to have inclusive relationships.
Yeah. And how old is your son now?
My son will actually be 18 in February.
Oh, wow.
So,
And how long
yeah,
ago did you start No Small Victories?
I started No Small Victories as an active organization about 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've been advocating for quite some time. I've been publishing my children's book series and doing a lot of speaking engagements and educational engagements for groups, trying to help facilitate that early intervention piece for parents who are really struggling to
Mm-hmm.
come to terms with just getting a diagnosis. Um, but it's actually been something that I think I've been doing for since my son was diagnosed.
I see. So, can you please tell us a little bit more about the organization, what it includes, and how it helps kids and families?
Right. Well, No Small Victories is a grassroots organization located in Springfield, Mass. We're currently under the fiscal sponsorship of a larger organization called the Martin Luther King Jr. Family Services in
Mm-hmm.
Springfield. And the reason why I thought it was really important to partner with another established organization in our community was just to give me time to build that foundation. At this time, I'm currently studying toward a master's in autism and applied behavior analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to be able to speak with some type of authority. I wanted to learn uh, the organization from top to bottom. So
Yeah.
pairing with a larger organization is giving me that time to really learn to make an organization that's going to be sustainable. What we're currently doing, we go in and I do a lot of community education on the signs and symptoms of autism. Currently, African Americans are experiencing almost a 2 year disparity in getting a diagnosis. So they're missing a lot of the educational supports that could really help their children. And, for us, I think that there are a lot of cultural influences that make parents kind of reticent to actively advocate for a diagnosis. So we're doing as much education in the community and really wanting to educate the community itself so that it becomes a support system for parents.
Mm-hmm.
Autism can feel very isolating for parents. And a lot of times we take that on. We feel judged. We feel that people are really kind of looking at our parenting skills and not really looking at the diagnosis.
Yeah.
So, sometimes parents really will kind of, in an effort to protect their children, become isolated. And I really want to do as much community education as possible so that these parents do feel, supported when they're in their community.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And you have mentioned that you have launched several books. Can you please tell us more about books? Are they for parents or for anybody?
Initially my books were for my children's peers and wanting them to be able to kind of identify with some of the things that they see with autism. Because I think children, when they don't understand something, that's when it becomes foreign to them and really strange. And so children will just kind of segregate
Mm-hmm.
from what's not familiar to them. But once you teach them, it just becomes, what they're seeing is just something about another child, and it's not a big deal. So I actually have four children's books,
Mm-hmm.
and they all deal with different aspects of autism. And they chose, a picture book format. So that was a way of really kind of educating children and in a way that they could understand. But as I see more and more classrooms becoming um, inclusion classrooms, it's really important that I think we help educate teachers. We help, of course, educate their peers so that our children will have relationships inside of their classroom and have and experience true inclusion. But also, I think they're wonderful for extended family members.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really don't know that there is anyone who couldn't benefit from these children's book series.
Mm-hmm.
Although they're in a children's book format, they're very informative and a lot of times our extended family really want to be supportive, but they really just don't know how. Because, there's a lot to learn about autism, just
Yeah.
the day to day challenges that our families are facing. So sometimes, family members just aren't equipped, to be that support system that's so crucial. So the
Mm-hmm.
first book I wrote, it's actually called, these are all about my son, Joshua and the Star Tabulous Dreammaker. And
Mm-hmm.
this book was kind of a catharsis for me. It was a way to express some of the challenges that my son was dealing with sensory integration issues, with having to, deal with transitions. Transitions for our children can be very, very stressful when they aren't able to anticipate what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Um, so it kind of, touched on a lot of things. And interestingly enough, I never mentioned autism in the first book. I was just kind of wanting to share a glimpse of his day and what some of his challenges were. And that book kind of led me to go on to seek out artistic grants. And I did some, private fundraising to go on and write the second book,
Mm-hmm.
which went on to become Joshua, The Adventures of Sutha Joshua from Planet Yetakan. And this book actually deals with two uh, two components of autism that people often see, and what that is echolalic speech and perseveration. Now, with echolalic speech, children on the spectrum, as I said, have difficult time um, picking up on social cues, such as just picking up on informational cues
Yeah.
in conversation so that they can make an appropriate response. So what you may hear sometimes is them just echoing back what's said to them, or echoing a lot of the same rote phrases over and over. For instance, when my son was younger, if you said to him, "Hello, Joshua," he would say, "Hello, Joshua." So it took a lot of education to get him to understand the
Mm-hmm.
reciprocity of conversation. And another, when we talk about perseveration, our children often will gravitate toward a very narrow, um, a very narrow field of interest. So you may have a child who's just really preoccupied with dinosaurs, and that's all they want to talk about, or airplanes, and they may be, extremely knowledgeable in that area,
Mm-hmm.
but not able to really broaden their areas of interest. So this book was a very cute way of kind of introducing those concepts for our children's peers. That went on to become the next book, Joshua, That's So Slimming.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a cute play, and it's so funny because I think as parents, as women, we often kind of get so caught up in the appearances of things and worrying about our weight, and we need to
Yeah.
do all these things to maintain this outward appearance. And one of the things that you may see in our children um, is what they call stimming, or auto stimulation. So sometimes we may see our children in public wringing their hands, rocking back and forth, repeating phrases, clearing their throat. For my son, it was just kind of bouncing on his toes. And oftentimes that's a means of them kind of self-regulating all of the stimulatory information that's coming in. Um, I always kind of give the analogy that as we're speaking, I can hear, background noise, like in my refrigerator. I may be able to actually, if I listened hard enough, hear things going on outside. Our
Mm-hmm.
brain will kind of filter that and put it on level so that I'm able to really concentrate on our conversation, even though all this stuff is going on. For some children on the spectrum, they may experience um, sensory overload. So of that information all kind of comes in all together, and it's just like they're just overwhelmed with smell, sensation, hearing. All of these sensations are coming in. So,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard this from children on the spectrum that said that's kind of a way that they kind of block it out and be able to kind of focus and kind of deal with all that information coming in. So it's a way for them to self-process that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the third book. And the book that's really closest to my heart that was just published this spring is called Joshua, I'm Over Here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why this book is so important is because it deals with the phenomenon of our children having a really difficult time of meeting or sustaining eye contact. But more importantly, the reason why this book is so dear to me is it was written in conjunction with my older son, Robert. And at the time, when Joshua was diagnosed, Robert was about 10, 10 and a half. And he was really struggling with wanting to build this relationship with his toddler brother and having him really have a hard time just meeting eye contact. Um, and I think that a lot of times when we have children diagnosed, the parents go through, I would say, a grieving process. It's definitely a grieving process.
Yeah.
And it becomes so overwhelmed because you're trying to process all these emotions, but at the same time, you're kind of put in a situation where you may have to hit the ground running and start actively advocating for services. And it can be very overwhelming for families. But often we kind of lose sight of the siblings, our typical siblings. So I really wanted to give voice to our siblings and let them express the emotions that they go through. They go through a lot of the same emotions that parents do, the grief, the anger, the frustration. And my son was so wonderful wanting to just be this big brother and not knowing how. And at the time, I didn't see all that frustration in him. For some children, they may act out. And for other children, they may just want to become the perfect child, almost
Yeah.
feeling like if I can be this perfect child, then I can fix everything. So they internalize a lot of guilt and anger and frustration as well. So this book, I really wanted to be able to just say to the siblings, like, we hear you. We haven't forgotten you. We understand it amidst all of the things that we're going through as a parent that you're going through a lot of the same emotions. Um, and from there, I actually just finished a discussion guide to accompany all four books. And I'm really hoping to see these um, really take a place in a classroom setting. Maybe have teachers do some readings and then open up discussions. They're very age appropriate questions that would open up discussion, for children who may have siblings on the
Yeah.
spectrum and who are frustrated or who are just kind of curious about their peers and not knowing how do they help their peers and be friends. So, I'm really excited about the book series. But as I said, I'm still a mom. I'm a graduate student. I'm working full time, so
Mm-hmm.
haven't been able to promote them the way I want to. But I think that time is coming. I've gotten such wonderful feedback from
Yeah.
educators that I've been able to share the books with. Um, and my son, we do a lot of book signings together, which is always fun. He's becoming this wonderful advocate
Uh-huh.
and teenager, um, which I
Wonderful.
honestly don't know that I thought I would see the day when he just becomes this typical teen and
Mm-hmm.
loving that. has his upsides and his downsides, but I love the fact that he's doing so well now.
Amazing. And where are your books available? Amazon or your own website?
Actually, well, the books actually were initially printed. The children's books were initially printed through a self-publishing house,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be obtained through Amazon. However, the book series itself, as a self-contained unit, I will be offering at my website, which is www capital N, capital S, capital V, online.com. We're going to currently be putting up a bookstore so that you can buy the set in its entirety. I think it's just going to be a wonderful vehicle for really open up that dialogue for people to really learn more about autism and
Yeah.
become those support systems for our families.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have all the links below this interview. If people are interested, they can just click on a link and go purchase books. Jacqueline, you also mentioned that you would like to educate teachers and just spread awareness. What would be the steps? What teachers can implement or change in their teaching style to really help kids?
I think our teachers are, God bless them, they're so overwhelmed now with so many of the state and national mandates on testing.
Yeah.
So they're so focused on trying to get children proficient in certain areas. And a big component of supporting autism is the social skill building. So it can be really overwhelming especially for integrated classrooms where the majority of the students are typical students who may not have the same needs as our children. They require a lot of
Mm-hmm.
support. Um, I would say definitely speak to your parents. Um, you know, make sure that you have a really close relationship with this parent. Parents are a wealth of knowledge. I've come across some amazing parents who sometimes get a little frustrated and think that
Yeah.
um, their input is not valued. And I think it goes hand in hand that you have to build a very strong educational team. And I think that parents need to understand that you are a very integral partner on that team. I've been blessed to have wonderful parents on my son's educational team, but we are in constant contact. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't say that to, say that you have to constantly um, talk to his teacher every 5 minutes. But building that relationship, especially for parents, is critical. Um, Understand the teachers, what they're up against and appreciate that. You don't want to build a relationship where you feel that your teacher is your adversary. They're your child's friend. Um, I would say 90% of the teachers that I've encountered, they really want to be effective and to see that all their students are successful. Um, but it can be very, very difficult because they are up against so many challenges. So I would say definitely building that educational support, having a strong team, having everyone be have a value of voice at the table when you go to meetings, um, and it's important that everyone's input is shared so that everyone is kind of building this collaborative effort to support each person's input, whether it's a speech therapist, an occupational therapist at the table, your educational advocate, the
Mm-hmm.
parent, the teacher. Everyone has to work in collaboration
Mm-hmm.
for, importantly. But I think also teachers sharing and learning some of the values of what our children experience and understand that a lot of times it's not a behavioral issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes our children are just reacting and in a form communicating to you that something's not right. So if you see certain behaviors, it may not be because that child is just tantruming. It may be because there's something going on that they're trying to convey to you, but they don't have those communication skills to do that. Um, so I think it's important for teachers also to be open to kind of learning some of the information. And if you have a speech pathologist or an OT specialist coming into your classroom, take a few minutes, ask a few questions that may be able to help you during your teaching sessions to help support that student and
Mm-hmm.
kind of decrease those behaviors that are inhibiting their learning process. I just think it's so important that we really work together as a cohesive team for that student's benefit. Um, it's definitely detrimental when you kind of have this tug of war and have everyone kind of feeling like I'm the specialist at the table, so you need to listen to me. There's so much to be done on that support effort front. No one person is going to be able to do it alone, not one
Yeah.
speech pathologist or OT. So we have to work together.
Yeah, that's great. And Jacqueline, what would be the steps for parents that their child just got diagnosed and they're so overwhelmed and they just don't know what to do? What are the first steps to kind of uh, take the right direction in raising their child?
Um, I would say first step, breathe, and understand that it's nothing that you did wrong. Um, as parents, we internalize so much guilt and so much that you kind of become immobilized. It's really, you almost feel like this deer in a head caught in the headlights. There's so much going on so quickly, and people will start talking about time schedules for you if your child is two, in your state. Early intervention may cease on their third birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So you literally do have to hit the ground running and advocating. But also understand that as a parent, you have needs as well. Do not neglect your needs as a care provider, understanding that you are going to need that emotional support. So whether it be talking to your extended family members and really talk about the anxiety and the depression and the fear that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes what I see with autism is it kind of polarizes family members. If you have a husband and wife, you may see the wife will kind of go into overdrive and become this super advocate, and she's trying to take on everything and learn everything, where the father may kind of go into denial mode. Autism affects our boys 5 times as much as our girls. So sometimes I think that fathers kind of identify that with parents, with their child. Um, the sports figure Rodney Peete, Holly Robinson Peete husband, he wrote a book, Not My Son. And that was his, expressing to fathers, like, I get it. We don't want to accept that there's something wrong with our son because we kind of identify that with ourselves. So you do see this polarization
Yeah.
within the family unit, and mothers are already, overwhelmed. And because we've carried this child, a lot of times we carry a lot of guilt, wondering, what did I do wrong? Did I eat something? Did I not take my vitamins? Did I not rest enough? So there's already that internalized guilt as a mom. So I think that definitely reaching out and not isolating yourself, and it can be hard because we do feel that no one's been able to definitively tell us why autism happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so many, contributors around the world that are not consistent. So no one can tell us. So of course, as a mom, you're going to constantly look for what did I do wrong? And, you may even feel isolated from your partner. So I say the best thing to do, definitely try to surround yourself with a support system. If it's not family, then look out, into your community. Are there community support groups of parents on the spectrum?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be ashamed. Definitely reach out for that support. And then I would say definitely try to educate yourself. Um, look at the current rates and what's happening in the autism community. But definitely, I would say take some of it with a grain of salt. There's certain things that have been said over the years that, other things have come out to totally negate what was said prior. Um, it's still relatively new,
Yeah.
as far as research and stuff. So, I would say, definitely look for those supports. Try to educate your family members as much
Mm-hmm.
as possible, so that they become a support system. Um, and then just try to build that support system within your whether it's in your educational team. If you're having a hard time navigating the special education system, look for an educational advocate to help you with that. I mean, there's so much to it, and no one person can do it all. So definitely seek out advice from others. Um, like I said, I think it's just human nature for us to want to protect our children from
Yes.
scrutiny. So we do kind of self isolate, but um, there's so much progress that your child could be making in that time. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say that kind of dismiss what you're going through, because you do need to process that grief. And you can't forget about yourself, because I've seen it manifest itself in physical conditions because of the stress.
Yeah.
So take care of you as well as a parent. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's one definitive blueprint for each parent to say, okay, you do this first, this first, this
Of
first.
course.
Um, I think that we all kind of go through the process a little differently, but definitely seek out other parents. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you find that other parents are such a wealth of knowledge, and once they cross that bridge, most parents are so eager to share that information to make that process easier for you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And I have been reading and researching online. I have seen so many debates over vaccination. So some people say the vaccination causes autism. Some people say it's not true. You probably made some research. What is your opinion on that?
Um, you know, I kind of feel, there's two warring camps within me. As a parent, of course, I definitely would like to know, how this started, what's causing it. I try to read up on as much of the current research as possible. There's definitely a camp that are still saying, the vaccines are in direct correlation with the MMR
Mm-hmm.
and with dimerosal. And of course, you have another camp that's still, within the medical community that's refuting that information. Um, so part of me wants to say my intrinsic feeling is that I think there are a lot of different components, because we don't have that consistency around the globe. You have countries who are not vaccinating on the same schedules as other countries, or who may not have access to vaccinations, who are still experiencing populations of autism being on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally that there are several components that may be contributing to these rates. I think, and this is just my opinion. I'm definitely not a scientist or a specialist in this
Mm-hmm.
area. I think that there's almost like this tumbler in a lock type phenomenon that may be occurring, whether it's a genetic component, whether it's environmental. Um, Even if there may be aspects of slight genetic mutations that are making us more susceptible to autism. I think there's so many different components going on, and I think for certain populations, that's just that lock, those tumblers in the lock are just falling in the right sequence, and we're starting to see that rise in the autism rates. Um, whether the vaccinations are a component of that,
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that debate. For one, as a parent, I'm kind of in that group where the horse has already left the barn. And I
Okay.
really
Mm-hmm.
don't want to perseverate on that, because it takes away so much energy that I could be utilizing to actively advocate for the children who are already diagnosed, for the parents
Mm-hmm.
who are experiencing, a hard time dealing with this diagnosis, or for
Yeah.
parents who have yet to gain a diagnosis because they're just reticent to actively, to actively advocate for a diagnosis so that they can begin services.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I kind of go back and forth, where I want to really look at all of the current data that's out there, but I also feel that for me it's a little exhausting. I think that my
Okay.
energy needs to be focused on helping children that are already diagnosed.
Mm-hmm. I see. Thank you.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, it does. I think it makes sense when you have 24 hours a day and you need to choose your time and energy to put in which directions.
Yeah,
Of course, it makes sense to use your energy in helping kids and parents instead of just trying to find out whose fault it is. So, yeah, of course. And if our viewers would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way to find you online, or how do they get in touch with No Small Victories?
Yeah, definitely go to our website on www.nsvonline.com. I can also be reached through my publicist, which is DRS Media Consulting, and I will give you her information. Um, that's Dana, Dana, at drsmediaconsulting.com. And you can reach me through my publicist for any reason, whether it's a speaking engagement, a book signing, to get books from us. As I said, we haven't actively gotten our store up and running yet on the book site. We're currently working on that, and I'm hoping that will be up shortly. But yeah, definitely give us get in touch with us, even if it's just to get in touch with me as a parent to say, I experienced some of the things that you're going through, and how do you feel about it, and just reach out to me parent to parent. I always welcome that.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Is there is anything else you would like to add?
Um, I think that the one thing that I always like to add that I do everything that I do for my son. And like I said, I've met some of the most amazing parents who, for had it not been for autism, may not have realized some of the potential that they have inside them to support not only their children but other children.
Mm-hmm.
So I dedicate everything I do to Joshua and to all of the other Joshuas out there, and just want to let other parents know that I'm in this with you. You're not alone. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for your time. And all of the links are below this interview. So if you need to get in touch with Jacqueline or visit her websites or get books, click on the links below. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
thank you. Bye bye.